Richard Carlton, and welcome to another awesome day of FileMaker training. Do you hear me okay, Margaret? Are we good?
I do.
So I'm Richard Carlton. I'm the instigator of FMTraining.tv. I'm not famous. I am notorious, as you would say, within the world of FileMaker. Notorious in a bad way, but that's why I surround myself with awesome people like Jonathan Ray, who's here today, who'll be walking us through some really awesome content. Some days we are the ones doing the training. Other days are days where people are training us, making us smarter. Why? Because the FileMaker platform is so awesome. It does great things. It really helps organizations and companies improve their efficiency, their return on investment with staff hours, staff time, staff investment. That's really what it's about. It's about doing more with your team. And you pay a little bit on the front side to get it going, but then you reap the rewards over time. So real quick, the upcoming broadcast schedule. So today's Virtualist with Jonathan Ray. I'm not sure what about Virtualist he's doing, but he'll be doing something awesome, I am sure. Jonathan Ray. So are you there, Jonathan Ray?
I'm here.
Cool. What are you talking about today?
We are going to talk about virtual lists today. And should I go ahead and share my screen here?
Yes, please.
Okay. Let me know if I'm coming through, all right?
You are. Excellent.
Okay.
Awesome. All right. And so here's a little demo file I cooked up. I want to show you it in action first before we pop the hood. Okay. So here we go. I have on 3 tabs here. Okay. You'll see 3 different portals. One is a list of contacts, real basic list. I have 50,000 records loaded up with contacts. And then here's another list with invoices. There's about, I don't know, 10,000 or so invoices loaded up. And then another portal that combines figures from both lists. All right. Now, all 3 of these portals are coming from the same exact table occurrence. All right. These are just different columns. I'll show you how that works. And so for a couple of these tabs, we have a show all, and the other ones have a date range. So first, on the contacts, I'm going to hit show all. You'll see what this does. Spin for a second. And now we have 50,000 records that we're showing from the contacts table. Okay. In invoices, if I do the same, you can see, I mean, this is coming from the same exact table occurrence. And if I hit show all, then we have 6,300 invoices. If I come over here to the reports, it's going to combine data from both if I choose a date range. So let me choose like January of this year to the current date. It'll spin for a second. And this file right now is on a server. Just I wanted to show you that this is not a something that works fast just with a local copy, but it's on a server. And you can see that it's combining some info here, showing the number of contacts in this particular state, the number of invoices, and the invoice total. Okay, so that's the idea. The idea with virtual lists, okay, is kind of limitless. I'm just showing you a for instance of how you could use this. But a virtual list is, well, let's just get into it, okay? I have 4 different layouts here. One is contacts, and you can see it says the 50,000 records. The other is invoices, that has the 6,300 records. And the other is this virtual list. Okay, I'm going to click in here, and I've queued it up with 50,000 records as well. Let's go into table view. Yes. Okay, and you can see here that what we have is a field called data that's storing all of the information for each record. Okay, so like Colorado here, it'll have CO for Colorado 2800. And so field number 1 is pulling the first value of this data field. Field number 2 is pulling the second value. Field 3, the third value, and so on. That's kind of how it works. So if I come here to dashboard, though, and I run a virtual list on the contacts, here's 2,900 contacts in this date range, and I go to my virtual list. Now the data has changed. Right now, it's first name, last name, the city, state, and all of these are stacked on top of each other. And then field number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 are grabbing the corresponding value from this field called data. All right. And that's how that's working. That's how it's showing up. All right. Let me come here to dashboard. Let me stop real quick and make sure I'm not going too fast before I jump into the nuts and bolts of this thing. Margaret, am I doing okay?
You absolutely are.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. So I'm going to kind of pop the hood here. I'm going to go into layout mode, and you can see on all three of these tabs, it's the same exact portal. It's called just virtual list. All right. And I put these on separate tabs just for ease of use. When you download this sample file, we'll make it available in the show notes. It's just easier to kind of click around. But if I put this portal on a layout just by itself, it's going to be the same exact thing. Okay, I've just labeled it a little differently for each tab with different headers on top, okay, corresponding. All right, so it's the same exact portal. And then if I come here to File, Manage, Database, here is the whole relationship graph. We have the dashboard, which is just one record, almost like a preferences table. We have invoices, contacts, and you can see here, right, that dashboard, which is in the background, that's the layout we're displaying this stuff on. This layout is not related at all to invoices or contacts. Okay, so then how are we showing this data? We are showing it with this table here called virtual list. So what we're doing in that script, we are collecting a set of data to display, and we're telling the virtual list table to display it, whatever it is. All right, so it's an array of data. It can be from invoices, it can be from contacts, it can be a combination of the two, whatever we want to display. And then we're telling virtual list, hey, I want you to display this data we're sending you, and then it does it, and it does it very quickly. All right. So the relationship between dashboard and virtual list. Remember, virtual list has 50,000 records in it. Dashboard has one. So it's telling this portal here, virtual list, only display the records that, and let's take a look. That has where count var stands for count variable, or the count of the variable is greater than or equal to the row number. Okay, we're going to dig into that to figure out what in the world that means here. Okay, so let's start with our dashboard table. And you can see this is a very basic thing. There's only 4 fields. And really, we don't even need this one. I just put that in there because I thought it might come in handy. Let's start with these 2 fields. We have the start date 1, start date 2. Okay. Well, that could be date end. I should probably change that, right? But it's date 1, date 2, basically. That's for creating the date range. Those are 2 global fields. So when we run the script, you can see we have a script trigger attached to both of these fields, and we have a script attached to this button. When we say go, give me the data, then we're sending the script the values of these 2 fields. Okay, the one field that we saw in the relationship graph is called count var, and what we're trying to do here is we're trying to get the number of records that we have stored in a global variable called virtual list data. So whatever is being displayed here in this portal, okay, all of it is coming from this one global variable that we're setting in a script. And then this field here called count var is saying, get me the number of values in this global variable. Okay, let me show you what that looks like before delving into the actual script here. Okay, give me 1 second. Okay, so we have 2,900 records. Let's say we go from not January, but March. March 1 to August 29. Now we have 2,100 and some odd records. If I pull my data viewer up, you can see we have one global variable called virtual list data. And in this global variable, if I open it up, this is what you might imagine, right? It has a stacked list of stuff that is being displayed, right? The first one corresponds to the first line. So this first field knows to get the first value in this stack and to get the first value of the first value, right? The one right before this little pipe symbol. This one here, this last name knows that because I'm row number 1, I should get the first row and the second value in that row, and so on and so forth. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This fifth row in this portal knows that it needs to get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The fifth row, evaluate that one, and to grab the first value of it, right? And so that's how it's working. Whatever is in this list is going to be displayed in this portal. So I could change this, for instance, to say, if you have a variable that's 30,000 characters or more, then you can't manually change it. So let's try to do something else, like let's say July at 693. Let's see if that does it. And we're going to change the second one. Oh, it's still over 30,000. Let's try just August, maybe. Let's see if that does it. Yeah, there we go. So I'm going to change John to Jonathan in that third one. Okay. And now we need a way to refresh the portal. So I'm going to go into layout mode, browse mode. And you can see that just by changing that manually, you can see right away that third row in this portal changes. So that shows you that whatever is in this global variable is going to be displayed and parsed out properly in this portal, whether for this contacts tab, invoices, or reports. And so the trick is to get the exact data that we want in this global variable. And then the portal will take care of itself once we tell it to refresh, right? So in these scripts, actually, let's go back into the database first. I haven't shown you this yet. So we looked at this count variable. Okay, it says it's a calculation, an unstored calculation. Whenever this variable is set, virtual list data, it's going to get the number of values that's in there. So let's look and see what's in there right now. If we go to watch and I go to dashboard count variable, and let's see the number, 332. And that's the exact number that's down here. That's just being displayed. Okay, so it knows that there are, well, we can just do this. Virtual list data. Here's the full stack of data here. Okay, and if I come over here and go value count, that means I want to get a numerical value that equals the number of values stacked on top of each other. And if I hit evaluate, again, we have 332. So that's getting our count. So in the relationship, remember, when we went to define database, this criterion here, it says only show the rows in that portal that are greater or equal to, the count variable is greater or equal to the row, right? So we know we have 332 in this field here. And so it's saying only show us rows 1 through 332. Any row after 332 will not be displayed, in other words. All right. So if we didn't put that there, if we had some other criterion there, then as we scrolled through, like this is row now 332 right now, if we did some other criterion, we would be seeing 50,000 records in this portal, and over 49,000 of them would be blank. So that criterion in that relationship is just so that we can see all of the rows in the portal that actually have data in it. We don't want to see a bunch of blank records. That's why that's happening. All right, let me hit the pause button again. Are we doing okay there, Margaret, or am I good to continue on?
We got a quick question, though.
Okay, go ahead.
Are virtual lists a workaround due to a huge oversight in FileMaker? Is FileMaker so hampered by design that we need workarounds like this?
Okay, so virtual lists, let me back up for a second here. The virtual list technique is certainly not unique to me, and is certainly not unique to RCC. This was developed many years ago. If I'm not mistaken, it might have been by a developer by the name of Bruce Robinson. I'm not quite sure of the history of this. What a virtual list allows you to do is combine data from separate tables, okay, and put them together. That's something that FileMaker can't do easily. All right, FileMaker could. Let's say you have a portal here, and we're just displaying a straight relationship to contacts. All right, we can certainly do that in a FileMaker. That's not a limitation of the design. But if you want something like this, where you want a list of states, and within those, yeah, let's do this like that. You want a list of states from your contacts table, and you want that sorted in alphabetical order. And in that list of states, then you want the number of contacts in those states, and then you want the number of invoices corresponding to that state, and the summary total number of all the invoice related to that state. That's going to be very difficult to do. And if you're able to pull that off, you're going to have these unstored calcs, and the performance hit is going to be bad. And there's all sorts of things like that you don't want to do. So a virtual list is like it's like a temporary table where you create and destroy as needed very quickly, and therefore dashboard reports. Some people use these virtual lists for navigation. Okay, so for instance, say you log into a database and you want only a certain subset of users to be able to go to certain sections in your database. You could have a virtual list, and each of these rows is a button that takes them to a certain area. And then on startup, you populate that virtual list. And maybe there's only like 3 or 4 lines, but those are the only buttons then that they have access to. So, I mean, there's a ton of different ways you can use virtual lists, from little drop-down pickers that you choose to doing something like this, a very basic dashboard report. But you don't want a report that is doing all these unstored calcs and summaries and everything else if it's just a quick total type table that you're going for. So again, the first 2 examples here, contacts and invoices, you don't need a virtual list to pull this up, okay, at all. But I'm showing you that you can do it, and there might be some advantages to doing it, like for instance doing filters on this. So I'm doing a date range to get us contacts within a certain date range, contacts that were added from July 1st to today. But we could have all sorts of filters up here, like I want not only the date range, but also I want to filter by the certain state, or I want to filter by multiple states, or I want to filter by the date range and state and company. If you try to do that in a relationship, maybe you can pull that off and the power to you, but that's going to be a very complicated relationship to display in a portal. Or maybe you put a filter on that portal and then it becomes deathly slow. It might make more sense to do it with a virtual list here. So those are some of the advantages. I don't think we're going to get into all of the possibilities. I just want to show you the basics of how it works, and then you can kind of get your mind engaged into the possibilities for your solution. So I hope that answers that question. So again, we have 3 tabs here: contacts, invoices, report. Just to recap, on all 3 of these tabs, it's the same exact portal. And you can see when I flip over to, say, invoices, this data doesn't make any sense. Like, invoice number is not Noel. So if I make it to show the invoice data, now it corresponds. And then the report data is a combo of both of these tables. All right, so here's how it actually works then. Let me go into database. And then we looked in detail at this dashboard list of fields. Now we're going to jump into the actual virtual list and show you how that works. Okay, so you can see here we have a field named row. And when I loaded this up, this table up, I created 50,000 records. And every single record had a serial number, okay, that was generated. And it was just incremented by 1. So the first record was 1, the second record was 2, 3, 4, etc. Okay, so each record, this row is a number that corresponds to that record number. So record number 100 is going to have the number 100 in this field. All right, the data is what populates all these other fields here. So the data is like a collection storage unit. And what this does, if I jump down in here, is, again, everything is coming from this virtual list data global variable. And so we're grabbing, first of all, we're saying, I want the particular row, the particular value in this global variable that corresponds to that record's row number. So for record number 100, for instance, what it's saying is, give me all of the data for this row for value number 100 in this global variable. And so it will get this string of text that's going to be separated by these little pipe symbols, right? And then it's saying, not only do I want you to give me this row, but I want you also to separate the values from the little pipe symbols. So every time it sees a pipe symbol, then give me a paragraph return instead. So say you have 5 pieces of information kind of strung together by these pipe characters. Now you're going to get 5 values stacked on top of each other. So let me show you what that looks like. And then these fields just get the first value that's being separated, the second, the third, the fourth, whatever. It doesn't care what it is. It's just getting whatever value that corresponds to that field. All right, so this is what that looks like. If I go to virtual list, for this invoices find that I just did, I'll come back here to dashboard. You can see there's 95 records that were found from within July 1st to August 29th. And then after this record here, or there's 95. So after record number 95, there's nothing here. Okay. In my data viewer, this is that global variable again. We know that there's 95 of these things. Okay. So record number 96, because it's saying get me row 96 and there's nothing there, then it displays nothing. It's blank. But record 95 right here, it's saying get me the 95th value in this stack. And that's what's being displayed in this data field. And then it's separating it out. Okay. At the bottom, you can see everything is strung together by little pipe symbols. And this data field is saying replace those pipe symbols with paragraph returns, one after the other. And then from there, each field is grabbing, field number 1 is grabbing the first value, field number 2 is grabbing the second value, and so on. And that's how that works. All right. So that's how kind of the inner guts work. Let me show you what the script looks like. Let's start with contacts, for instance. And I'm just going to do the show all button. So this is going to get us 50,000 records. Let's see. Oh, let's destroy this first. There we go. Spins for a second there. Yep, 50,000. Okay. In the scripts, let's do this. So for show contacts, that's that button, and that's those script triggers. The script triggers, if I come here and do script triggers, it just says on object save, do this script with the parameter of contacts, right? And again, you'll get this sample file when we're done here in the show notes. So this virtual list show contacts, here's what's happening. It's going to go to a new window, and it's just a hidden window. This is what I do. You don't have to do a hidden window. This is just something I do. I do a size 1 by 1. So it's this tiny itty bitty little window. And then I do the position is minus 5,000 and minus 5,000. So it's hidden somewhere where no one can see it. And then it goes to the contacts layout. And it says if there is something in both of these date fields, and the date is greater than the end date is greater than the start date, then we want to limit our find in this date added, contacts date added, to that date range. And that's how you do it here, where you do start date, ... end date, date and date. That's how you limit it. And it says perform find. And it says otherwise, if these two dates aren't valid, then show us all records. Okay. And then it sorts the records by the state and then the last name, first name. Okay. And then here's where we are populating that global variable I keep talking about. So right now, that global variable is like really, really huge. And it's taking a while for it to even pop up because there's 50,000 values in this global variable right now. Okay, so it starts spinning when you try to manipulate that much data manually. All right, so we're not going to play with that. But that's how that is populated from this list here. So here's what that is. And hopefully I'm not going too fast. Just let me know if I need to slow down, Margaret.
I will let you know.
Okay. So we're in contacts right now. Look at here. There's 50,000 records. All right. If I go into the database, most of these fields in contacts are pretty standard stuff. Address, city, company name, and so forth. All these test records. But here are two calculations. The first one, I'm calling virtual list line calc. Okay. And it's these fields that are separated by the pipe symbols. So it's first name, last name, city, state, and so forth. Okay, so for every single record in the contacts table, you're going to have this calculation that is stringing together certain values separated by a pipe symbol. And then we have a summary, not summarizing a total, like a financial total. It's a different type of summary. It's a list of summary. So for anything in our found set, if we're only displaying, say, 10 records, there will be a list of this value for all 10 records. If it's 50,000 records, then this field is going to have 50,000 values in this line calc here. Okay, and that's what we want, and it's very fast, that list of. Other summaries are not fast, and so use that with care. But that's what we're doing. Okay, so let's do a simple find. Let's do something like New Orleans. Okay, and so we have 207 records. In my data viewer, I'm going to show you what this looks like. This virtual list line calc, first of all, remember I said that every single record has one of these, and that's what it looks like there. So I'm saying first name, last name, city, state, etc., all separated out. All right, and so now the actual list of looks like that. So there's 207 of those records that it collected because there are 207 records in the found count. So in my script, here's what I'm doing. In my script, I'm saying find what I want to find on, and that is the date range. Otherwise, if I didn't specify a date range, then show me everything. And then I want to sort by a certain sort. And then once I'm done and I have the found set that I want here, then give me this list. And I know that this list will be a stacked list of that summary field. Okay, and then once I have that virtual list and I close that little developer window up here and refresh the screen, then anything that I put into that virtual list will display here. Okay, and so that's going to work for contacts. That's going to work for invoices. That's the basic gist of this whole thing. Okay, give me 1 second here. There we go. Something more manageable, 332. Okay, so the same thing for invoices. If I go to invoices, it's the same exact idea where I'm going to a new window, go to that layout for invoice date. So I'm searching, my date range is searching on invoice date, start date, ... end date, perform find. Then I'm going to sort my records by the state and the ID invoice. Okay, and then the same type of thing where I'm getting a list of a calculation field. In invoices here, it's pretty much like that contacts field that I showed you, where you have a list of fields separated by a pipe character. And on here, I put a little custom function for a total field that puts a $sign and a thousands character in 2 decimal places. That's something that you'll want to keep in mind there. Okay, and then it gets a list of that calc. All right, so everything is pretty much simple here. Okay, you could already do most of this stuff fairly easily without doing a virtual list, pulling up a list of contacts, pulling up a list of invoices, standard stuff. But here's the trick when we want to actually combine things from both lists. And let's do something like July 1st to August 29th. And it's going to spin for a little bit. Okay, here we go. So you can see here's a list of states, and then the number of contacts found within those states, within that date range, the number of invoices in that state within that date range, and the total of those invoices in that date range. That'd be a pretty complex portal to put together. So here's how I did it. In this script up here called show report, and this is where a virtual list comes in handy. We're doing the same thing we did in the other script. We are doing a little developer window that's hidden. And then I'm saying I want to get me the list of all of the states that are there. So I had a value list defined, manage value list, right? And this value list is just a list of every unique value in the contact state field. Okay. So in data viewer, if I come here to do that, virtual list items and states, and that's the list that I'm working with. Okay. So that's the first thing. I get I get the list of states, and then I say I want to know how many states there are. And in my case, I think there's 51 because there's probably some weird value in there somewhere. Okay, so it has the count, gets the list, gets the count. And then what I'm doing right away is I'm knocking out that virtual list data. So whatever is in that virtual list data, I'm just clearing it right away. And then here, we're doing something a little more complex than these past two scripts. So in show invoices and show contacts, it's just a basic go to this layout, do a find, and then return this this calculation field in this variable. In this report script, what I'm doing is I am looping through this list of states. And then for every single state, starting with, what is it, Alaska or Arkansas? I forget which one. Then it's going through and it's saying, all right, go to invoices and perform a find. And we're going to do a find on the invoice state. And if that that range, that date range is valid, then we also want to limit it by that date range. We perform a find, and if it found something, then for, what is it, this column here, we set a value, and we say current invoice count value. And then for this value over here, invoice total, this is like a summary field, okay? And we get that value. Then we go over to the contacts layout, and we do another find. We say we're doing a find on the state, and then we're doing a find on the date. And if that worked, then we set another value. And then at the very end, we're combining this running list. So for instance, Arkansas, we would have collected 1, 2 values, and then another one for contacts. And then here, what we're saying is, give me anything I've collected so far, and then I want the state that we're talking about, and this value for invoices, this value for invoices, this other one, and this value for, value for contacts, value for invoices, value for invoices. And then we're doing it until we run out of states to go through, and then we close. But you can see that we're collecting this virtual list data differently than we are for these other scripts. And the point I'm making is that no matter how you collect the data, the end result is that you're putting together this list for virtual list data that the portal can then interpret and display. All right. So I'm going to just kind of loop through all of this with you and go through it step by step so we can understand. Okay. So this is the show report script here. And I go new window. So that's a hidden window. And then in states, I'm going to set a variable with a list of states, the count of the states. And then here I'm saying get rid of all the virtual list data that I have right now. So in my data viewer, here's what that looks like. right now at least, I have a list of states, right, from is this Alaska? What is that? Or is that Arkansas?
I think that's Arkansas. I thought no.
Then
Yeah, I
what's
think that's
AR? Man, I need to go back to grade school here. Or
I
is that
don't
just a
remember.
messed up thing?
I know that AL is Alaska.
Okay. Maybe someone watching
AR
can
is
help us
Arizona.
here.
AR is Arizona. Okay, there it is.
Awesome. Okay,
They say
great.
Oh, never mind. I'm full of crap. Scott says I'm full of crap. Never. You know what? Don't listen to me.
Okay.
Oh,
Uh,
Alabama. I always forget about Alabama.
awesome. So we have states and then count. So let me go through. So now we're looping. Okay. In the current state, why is it not giving us a current state? Oh, here we go. So our iteration, current state, I don't know why it's not giving us that. States. Oh, you know what? This is wrong. Okay, let me fix this real quick. um, there, that should work. Okay, here we go. And pull up my data viewer. Let's go through this. New window, states, count. Okay, and then we have current state. And then we go to the invoices. I'm doing a find. And for those who might be confused about this, okay, you can do a full-blown find in this step right here, perform find. But I like to do a perform enter find mode set field perform find so I can see exactly what I'm setting. Otherwise, I have to double click on this thing and figure it out every time. So that's just something I do. Okay, so it sets, we're in find mode right now. And I'm saying I'm going to find states corresponding to the current state. And if I have a valid date range, then I'm limiting that on the date invoice. Okay, and did it find anything? It didn't find anything for that state. Okay, so it says if get last error equals 0, if there wasn't any error, then set these values here. Otherwise, set those values to 0. Boom, boom. You can see current invoice total value, current invoice count value. Okay, and then it goes to contacts, does a find for it, performs the find, and then if there was no error occurred, then it's going to set this value. And for this one, there were 7 contacts in that particular state with that particular date range. Okay, and so now we have in our virtual list data here, we have our first value. Okay, and then let's just do one other one to show you how it works. Okay, so we go to invoices. I'm just going through here. Goes to contacts, same type of find. Okay, and now we're setting this again, and it is appending the one we're on now to the one that's already there. Okay, so you can see here we're just stacking values on top of each other until we're done looping through all the states. Okay, so I'm going to go here, put a little placeholder, and it'll loop through all of them. You can see it's kind of forming its little list. Okay, hit 51, it's done. Close. And I'll close this. And then it's not going to actually update until I hit refresh window. And then it's done. All right. And that's how that works. You can also see that I just did that locally. And if you're a more advanced developer and you know how to do a perform script on server, you can actually speed this up a lot by sending the parameters to the server, doing a perform script on server, and then displaying the results. That's another way of speeding this up. But I'm hoping that you can dissect this little file, play with it a lot. It's a lot easier to do it yourself than it is to watch me, I understand. But hopefully this will be kind of a launching pad for you, and you can use this in your solutions in a lot of different ways. So that's kind of the demo there, Margaret. Do we have any questions in the pipeline?
We do.
Okay.
In the virtual list, are the date and currency fields real dates and numbers or text?
Okay. So let's go here. In virtual list, the table, okay, right now I believe all of them are set to be text, okay, because what I'm doing is combining different types of data for each, okay. But in an ideal world, you wouldn't be doing that. Usually, the virtual list I've created, I'm not trying to display three different kinds of portals. It's usually one specific case. So, for instance, if all I was trying to do is build this a little bit complicated virtual list where it's combining this from over here and this from over there and adding this and so forth, and then giving you the data, what I would do for this invoice total field, I would make that a number field. But right now it's a text field. And if I was displaying a date up here, I would make that virtual list field with the type of, let's say, instead of text, date. But right now it's not. But you can do that if you'd like to. Yeah, that's a real good question.
Okay, do we have any other questions? Ken said that he thinks that he saw a custom function that will change the abbreviation to full name and vice versa. Like, are you talking in general or in here specifically? If you happen to need the full name, which clearly I do. I don't know my A states at all whatsoever. Scott,
Yeah.
Lynn, Ken are typing.
Okay. Yep.
Okay,
And I haven't sent this file to you yet, Margaret, so I'll send you it and we'll get that
yeah,
in the video archive for you.
Yes, I will. Thank you very much.
Yep.
How do you prevent pipes from being in the data, which will cause the virtual list to fail?
Yeah. So what you can do there, and that's just that's a preference really. So it's on a case by case basis. Most times with virtual lists, you're not going to be talking about thousands of records with a lot of complicated text. Some virtual lists we're talking about, there's only going to be 10 records in there. And the only reason you want it in there is because the data is going to be pulling from, say, 5 different tables. You're combining it into one, but there's only 10 records, and we're just talking about numbers and state abbreviations or something. So if you already know, there's no way in the world there's ever going to be a pipe character in the data I'm displaying, then most of the time you're fine. Okay. But if you are worried about that and that's a real concern, then all you would need to do is change the separator. So over here in data, right? When you collect the data, you would change this separator into something crazy that you know is not going to ever be in text. Like maybe you have like, you know, 5 at signs or something, you know. If that is going to show up regularly in text, I don't know what kind of text you're dealing with, but that would be kind of bizarre. So you could do something to ensure that that's never going to mess you up if you are dealing with thousands and thousands of records with very odd characters.
Thank you very much. Hopefully that answers your question, Lynn. Do we have any other questions before I begin wrapping this up?
Yeah.
Let people type a little bit.
Sure. Yeah, and you know, if this is going way over your head and you're like, what in the world are you talking about? This really is an upper mid-level developer type of conversation, or even senior developer. But there are some key times where it really is helpful, where you don't want slow scrolling of data, and you don't want your portal to go to a grinding halt because you're displaying all this really complicated unstored calculations from various places. If all you're wanting is a quick dashboard preview that's combining from different tables, the virtual list really is helpful.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to set up the conversation for people. Jonathan, I appreciate it. It looks like several people are typing, but
Okay.
I think we're good. The limit is 32,000 characters? Question mark.
It's not, but this is the confusing part, okay? You can set a massive global variable with a ton of data. It might be like 1 million characters, or it's huge, okay? You can set a very, very big amount of data in it, but you can't go and manually change it. Like you can't come up here into Data Viewer and say this list is over 32,000 characters. I couldn't come in here and manually change it and then it would give me some sort of error. Okay. So if you are reaching even the upper limit of what a global variable can contain, and I don't know that number off the top of my head, but it's something like 1 million characters or something. You can put that data in a global field. And if you put it in a global field instead of a global variable, then you can get around that that kind of governor that's put on the global variable. I believe that will do the trick. But again, it kind of would make me concerned if you're dealing with that much data in a virtual list anyways. And I don't know if there's a lot of use cases I've ever seen that would require that.
One last one from Ken. Can you chart from this dashboard portal, or would this put the data in some other portal? Something other than a portal?
Yeah, so if I wanted to do like a little chart, okay, this is another really nice thing about the virtual list is once the data is there, okay, once you have gone and you've collected it through your script, maybe you've done this looping process that collected it, or maybe you've done just a simple find, like the first two tabs here, okay? Once it's there, then a chart can very easily reference it, okay, and display without having to reference some gnarly unstored calc that's going to slow things to a grinding halt. So, first answer, yes, you can chart it, and it's going to be pulling from the virtual list, not from contacts or invoices directly, but from the version that you have compiled. And it's going to do it very quickly because you're just talking about, basically cache data. I understand it's not cache data because it's coming from unstored calcs, but it's just text at this point. There's no calculation going on here as far as that's concerned. So I've done reporting charts on this before, and it's a very handy thing.
I think that is how the chart in FM starting point is made? Question mark.
Yeah, I think it is, but I don't think that it's from a virtual list. Okay, so it's the same type of idea though, where some charts in FileMaker are pointing to, say, a portal like this, unless I'm totally mistaken and I've forgotten. But I don't think we use a virtual list in that way in FM starting point.
I wouldn't think so. I think that might be too complicated for FMSP.
Yeah, but I think we might be using a pick list of some sort in FM starting point somewhere. I wouldn't be surprised if we were, like, for instance, maybe in invoices or estimates, like when you're picking, say, something from products that might be displaying in a virtual list, maybe not, but that would be a use case.
Well, there you go. Hopefully that answers your question, Top Cat. Cool. With that being said, I think we're good. Thank you very much, Jonathan. People said this is really useful, that they appreciate the technique, and that this makes sense to them now. So thank you very much. Appreciate
All right.
your time.
Yep, absolutely. And I'll get you this file shortly here.
Please.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it.
Yep. I'm going to share the screen and run the music.
All right. Take care.
Have a good one.
Got a report of an individual up here who may be a FileMaker license. Well, it's potentially expired. Look at the back of that car right there. Looks like the FileMaker license has expired. Sir, I need you to step out of the vehicle. Sir, step out of the vehicle. Sir!